After studying this module, you shall be able to know what is female crime, what is nature of female crime in India, what are the characteristics of female criminals, what are the causes of crime. First, the introduction to female crime. It is unfortunate but a well-known fact that the arena of crime, which more or less the monopoly of males of late, is no more forbidden zones for the female gender. Today, we have all female terrorist outfits like DEM, which enthusiastically partakes in disrupting happenings in Jammu and Kashmir. Strongest involvement of women in crime has been the recent compilation of the list of India's 7 most wanted female criminals. The most terrible terror violence till date implemented by a woman on Indian territory was the murder of former Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in Tamil Nadu. The female terrorist named Dhanu was a suicide bomber of LTTE. Female criminality is larger due to wrecked homes and crisis of changing social values. Sanyal and Agarwal in 1982 studied a sample of 69 female convicts and found that above 75 criminals had a feeling of insecurity and 80% had a feeling of low self-esteem. Neera Kek Sohoni, a socio-demographic study of women prisoners 1986, studied prisoners in Pune and found some of the hypotheses of this author on female crime developed in 1969 as true and valid. B.R. Sharma, Crime and Women, IIPA, New Delhi, 1993, calculated 36 female criminals in Tihar jail, Delhi, and Postal Jail, Hisar, Haryana in 1991-92. However, Sharma's study was more psychological than sociological. He mostly directed Rorschach's test in reviewing female criminals, although he composed data on socio-demographic related and social issues in crime through an interview schedule, identified fact that men are intrinsically more violent, but women can also be as violent as if provided with suitable reward or incentive. A study by Blackburn in 1974 establishes that women criminals have higher level of hostility, tension and psychopathic deviance. In India, due to social, cultural and traditional reasons, women are to a prodigious level considered as homemakers, and their involvement in crime is seen as a matter of surprise and disappointment. The area of criminality of women is still not a zone of priority concern, probably because of the fact that their number is very small. Operational definitions. Women criminals. A woman who has been considered shamefaced of criminal behavior convicted under Indian penal codes and sentenced to imprisonment. Convict. A person considered guilty of crime and serving sentence for its commission. What is the nature of female crime? What are the crimes mostly committed by women in the general public? About 48% of the crimes committed by females involved victims and 52% are without victims. Of the total convicted female offenders in India under Indian Penal Code, in 1998, 1.16% were convicted for riots, 3.8% for murder or attempt to murder, 3.1% for thefts, 1.1% for kidnapping and abduction, 18.8% for hurt and 15.3% for cruelty. In study of 325 female offenders, that 63% offenders were convicted for murder, 14% for theft, 5% for excise offences, 4% for kidnapping, 4% for vagrancy, 35% for causing hurt, 2% for immorality, 1% for attempt to commit suicide and 4% for other offences. The array of crime displays that women are moving out of traditional crimes like sex offences and shoplifting to thefts, burglary and crimes of violence like murder, abduction, but there is indication that their participation in these offences has increased markedly than has men's in current years. Characteristics of female criminals. Who are the women who commit crimes? Their social and economic background will be discussed here in terms of 5 variables: marital status, age, income, education and residence. These variables then can be used for developing a hypothesis pertaining to the causation of female criminality. The background shall be analyzed on 2 bases. First, according to All India official crime statistics, and second, according to my own empirical study of 325 female offenders conducted in 3 states. First, marital status. The All India figures reveal that 73% of the female offenders in India are married, 15% unmarried and 12% widows. Since 9 out of 10 women committing crimes were either married or had lived for some time in the family of procreation after marriage. Second is age. It may be said that 15% of offenders are below 18 years of age. A little less than half, 46.5%, belong to 18 to 30 years age group. More than 250, that is 43.7%, belong to 30 to 50 years age group, and a little less than 1/10 are more than 50 years of age. Third, income. As regards the economic background of the female offenders, the All India figures have not compiled this variable. Fourth, education. The same thing is true of the educated family of female offenders. The All India records display that 12% female criminals in the country are literate. Fifth, residence. An analysis of the residential background of the female offenders showed that 23.5% offenders may be from urban areas and 76.5% to the rural areas. Next is causes of female crime. What are the causes of female crime? Derrick Lynn, The Etiology of Female Crime, a review of the literature 1973, suggested a brief of much of the fiction on grounds of female crime debated by Lombroso, W.I. Thomas, Kingsley Davis and Otto Pollock. According to Lynn, the shared assumptions covering the works of all these persons include the proposition that female crime is the result of physiological or mental features of persons, with minute or no recognition being given to the importance of social structural factors. These physical or mental characters of female criminals were typically observed as uncontrolled alterations or withdrawals from the usual inherent nature of women. As per this view, these women realized as willing towards features such as ferociousness, which is a destruction of their real nature. Individual treatment was consequently recommended for crime regulator, through which misbehaving women could be taken back into proper woman-like behavior. Thus, usual females show normal feminine characters, but criminal females show misrepresentation of or revolt against the biologically natural female characters. Critics has explained these point of view as imperfect. They comprise erroneous norms about biological features of female. Commercial prostitution ascends as a black market in sex. The problem with this theory is that it supports the thesis that the proper role for women is that of a childbearer and housewife. Pollock, The Criminality of Women, 1950, proclaims that female crimes are considered by dishonesty and dual values. Just as physical weakness forces a woman to resort to deception, the usage of physical charm enables her to attract the victim. Poisoning a child or an adult at home, sexual crimes, shoplifting and other thefts, abortions, etc. are easily hidden by them. Greater liberty has permitted them to move in new places and new characters, thus giving them more chances for partaking in offense. Maintaining double standards by women also helps create female crime because it leads to frustrations and envy on their part. It thrusts them to untrue blame compared to men, charges of rape, for example, though Pollock's proposals are not grounded on any proof. In fact, certain statements made by him are described as ridiculous and biased. Pollock has put more devotion to insignificant offences done by them and overlooked their grave offences like killing, burglary, etc. Freda Adler in 1975 studied prostitution, drug addiction and juvenile delinquency among females. She has attributed these crimes to the liberation movement of women and women's assertiveness. She contends that educated girls and women are more willing than ever to challenge traditional restrictions and social roles. The easing of restraints on women is further likely to increase female crime. Empirical studies conducted on female crime in India have by and large supported this author's etiological explanation. B.R. Sharma in 1963 concluded in his study that strained interpersonal relations with husband and other family members, husband's extra-family relations, deprivation and denial of basic needs of life like affection, security, etc. were the main causes of frustrations and ultimate crimes. Rani Bilmoria in 1980 and Sohoni Neera Kukreja in 1986 also supported this author's theory of family maladjustment as cause of female crime. Let me therefore analyze my study on female crime and discuss the hypothesis regarding the role of family maladjustment or role conflict in family in female criminality. We will first examine the crime of murder. My study revealed that in 77% cases, the victim was the member of the offender's family. In 5% cases, he or she had kinship relationship with the criminal. In 9% cases, she was her neighbor. In 8%, she or he was the member of a village community, and less than 1% cases, he or she was a complete stranger. This shows that in 99% cases, the female offender had primary relation with the victim. Of the 77% cases in which the victim was a member of the respondent's family, in 92.2% cases, the victim was a member of respondent's family of procreation, and only in 7.8% cases was he a member of the family of orientation. Of the 92.2% cases in which the victim was a member of the female criminal's family of procreation, in 57.9% cases, the victim was Ego's husband. In 18.9% cases, Ego's own child. In 4.2% cases, Ego's secondary kin. And in 19% cases, Ego's husband's primary or secondary kin. This fact of the victim being usually a kin or a close associate of the offender in crimes of murder was also discovered by Bullock in 1955 in his study of urban homicides, in Texas by Swelastoga 1956 in his study of 172 Danish cases, and by Sutherland 1950 in his study of 324 murders by females. Wolfgang in 1958, however, had found such relationship only in 23.13% cases in his study of 588 homicides in Philadelphia. In the cases where the victim was the respondent's own child, the murder was committed, either because the child was illegitimate, was afraid of social ostracism, or in a moment of extreme danger because of an altercation with the husband. Thus, in about 4/5 cases, husband-wife relationship proved quite an important factor in the causation of murder. In 45.5% cases, the cause was illicit relations of the offender with some man. In 10.9% cases, it was illicit relations of the victim with some woman. And in 27.3% cases, it was conflict with husband or ill treatment by husband. This proves the validity of our hypothesis of family maladjustment as the main cause of female criminality. Not only in murders but also in other crimes found to be an important factor in criminality. For example, in excise offences, when husband was arrested for illicit distillation, his wife too was arrested for helping the husband in illegal activities. In these cases, the wife merely helped her husband in his economic pursuits because of her dharma, religious duty, and not because of any desire to violate the social or legal norms. Similarly, in one case of theft in which 4 men and 3 women of a Gujjar family were arrested, convicted and given 1 year's imprisonment. The male members of one Gujjar family stole the cows and buffaloes of other Gujjar family, with which they had a family feud. While returning from the village with the animals, they were arrested by the police. Since women accompanied men, they too were arrested and penalized. This case also shows that women were labeled criminals not because they had criminalist tendencies but because their family male members were so labeled. My contention is that most of the thefts committed by women are not the result of psychological or social aberrations but are due to family and economic compulsions. Women convicted for minor thefts are mainly housewives who usually lack money to be able to buy things which were later stolen. Many a time they steal to stretch their budgets. The lower class social status women convicted for thievery is a further proof of our hypothesis. In crimes of above types, women arrested play secondary or supportive roles. Their involvement in the offense is closely tied to women's role as a wife. They seem to commit crimes in roles auxiliary to men, in keeping their sex roles. They are therefore not to be treated as sole perpetrators of these crimes. Our hypothesis regarding the role of family in female criminality is thus fully justified. Simon in 1975 and Adler in 1977 have explained the recent increase in the incidence of female crime in terms of the breakdown of prevailing patterns of sexual inequality. According to Simon, increased labor force partition of women and other developments in the direction of sexual equality have expanded the crime opportunities and pressures towards law breaking among women. According to Adler, a growing trend towards female assertiveness manifested in the contemporary women's movement in the United States, as well as in other ways, has led to consequences in the area of criminality. These explanations do not explain crime situation in India, in spite of the fact that in our country too there is a women's liberation movement. But this movement is confined to the urban areas, whereas a large number of female criminals in our society come from the rural areas where women never talk of equal rights with men, and there is no breakdown of sexual inequality. We therefore cannot hold the view that in India, as labor force participation increases, opportunities to engage in criminality will expand for women as well. Could we examine adult female crime in terms of factors offered for explaining delinquency in young or adolescent girls? Some of the factors suggested are family tensions or under the roof culture, self-concept deficiencies and perceptions of lack of opportunity, excessive weight or other physical problems. My contention is that it is not the physical and psychological factors which account for female crime, but it is the non-harmony and instability in family relationships or disintegration of family life which mainly explain crime among women. Now, we will conclude this module with summary. Women's immoral behavior has been usually professed as less serious difficulties than manly unlawful behavior. Factually, female has been more likely to commit minor offenses and have made up only a small proportion of the offender population. Although women remain a relatively small number of all prisoners, these facts have concealed a trend in the rising percentage of female offenders, their participation in violent crime, and have inhibited the development of gender-specific programs. On the complete, girls offending acts are characteristically less continuing and frequently less grave than those of youths amongst women criminal offenders. However, minor offenses may cover grave difficulties that girls are suffering, running away from family and other prestige crimes such as absenteeism, are main constituents of girls' crime. Though their violation performance may not look to be very serious, these girls may be escaping from some serious difficulties and victimization, some including unlawful behavior by adults, which in turn creates them susceptible to consequent victimization and appealing in other manners that disrupt the law, such as prostitution, existence, sex, and drug use. Many threat issues can add to women's immoral behavior, including substance abuse, mental illness, and spousal abuse. One of the noteworthy risk elements is preceding victimization. This interesting resource, women and girls in the justice system, comprises the resulting information. Facts and figures comprises the up-to-date data and statistic. Legislation, a sample of links to online, federal and state legislation and testimony. Publications, a sample of available resources. Programs, examples of state and local programs and creativities available online. Training and technical assistance, a sample of preparation and procedural assistance. Chances accessible from site to site countrywide, known agencies and relations. Grants and funding, associations to federal subsidy prospects, related resources, illustrations of nationwide known agencies and administrations that deliver services or information.